Hi, I'm Mark Michael Lewis, the head coach of the GameOfThriving.com, where the more you play, the better your life gets. This is a discussion about the book by Adam Smith called The Theory of Moral Sentiments. Russ Roberts and Dan Klein at econtalk.org do a podcast where they're going through the book, and we're dealing with the first part. And I want to talk about a part from the book, which was written in the late 1700s by Adam Smith, the guy who wrote The Wealth of Nations, about the amiable, the awful, and the admirable virtues. And I feel that if we clarify this, it'll allow the rest of the book to really blossom. And it wasn't dealt with clearly in the podcast, so I wanted to make sure that this particular part got spoken of. So let's begin with the amiable virtues. To assume that there's two people, person A and person B, and person A has gone through a loss, a death in the family, and so they're experiencing grief. So A is experiencing grief. For a amiable virtue, it's about person B, the audience or the companion to person A, feeling what A feels. That is an amiable virtue. When B puts themselves into A's shoes and imagines what it would be like to experience what A is experiencing, they then feel a sympathetic and empathic emotion of, oh, that's what A is feeling. And that willingness to put yourself into another person's shoes and to feel what they feel is the amiable emotion. It's the soft, the gentle, empathic feeling with another person, putting yourself in another person's shoes. In contrast, the awful virtue in this case would be person A recognizing that their grief is more intense than what B can understand because B's not experiencing it. Recognizes that if they feel too much grief in B's presence, if they express it too much, it's going to make B uncomfortable. So they tone down what they express such that B can actually experience it. That process of toning down is what Adam Smith calls the awful virtue, or as Dan Klein might call it, the awesome virtue. So it's awe-inspiring. To tone yourself down, to experience that self-control is awful. It's the awful virtue. And when I do that, I'm respecting B. I'm going above and beyond to give B the kind of experience that B can handle, and so it deepens our relationship. So that's the awful virtue in contrast with the amiable virtue. Now, when we speak about admirable virtues, Adam Smith makes it clear that what makes it admirable is that I'm going above and beyond what is normal or can be expected. So, if I'm in B's position, and I truly put myself in the other person's position and feel what they feel in a way that I'm really going above and beyond what is normal, that's virtuous. That's admirable in what I'm doing because I'm going above and beyond in order to help build this relationship. In the same way, if I'm in A's perspective and I truly tone down, I'm feeling tremendous grief, but I'm self-controlled and I speak with B in such a way that B can sympathize with me, B can go on the ride with me. That's admirable because it goes above and beyond. And so you've got the amiable virtue of feeling with someone, the awful virtue or awesome virtue of toning down my experience, and what is admirable about that is that it goes above and beyond what is normal in order to help facilitate the relationship. Now, what's fascinating about this and the insight that Adam Smith has is that what makes an amiable or an awful virtue, what makes it admirable, what allows us to admire when someone else experiences it, and even what allows us to admire ourselves when we demonstrate and exhibit an amiable or an awful virtue, is the fact that we can put ourselves into the shoes of the other person and recognize the kind of effort that it takes. So if I'm A, or I'm an outside observer, and I watch B go demonstrate an amiable virtue. So B experiences the amiable virtue, when I observe B, I can put myself in his shoes and sympathize with what it takes with the going above and beyond that B is demonstrating when they exhibit that virtue. And so I admire them because I can put myself in their shoes and recognize the effort and skill that takes. Interestingly, I admire myself when I demonstrate an amiable or an awful virtue, because I can put myself into the shoes of the person observing me and recognize that when they put themselves in my shoes, they'll recognize the effort that I'm doing. And so I admire myself because I can imagine someone else admiring me by putting themselves in my shoes and recognizing my effort. And it's this loop that sets the foundation. It's the theory of moral sentiments, sets the foundation for human morality, but also sets the foundation for human culture and the sympathetic human relationships that are at the heart of human existence. And that's the key of the theory of moral sentiments, and this basic idea of the awful, amiable, and admiration, these virtues, lead through and are the source and the ground for the rest of the book. So I wanted to make this clear. If this is something that interests you, you might want to check out econtalk.org and follow along the discussion, read the book, and enjoy. Again, I'm Mark Michael Lewis, head coach of the Game of Thriving, where the more you play, the better your life gets.